Sometimes the most revealing moments happen when nobody's trying to reveal anything at all. It wasn't a red carpet. It wasn't a scandal. It was a joke about a dog. Back in August, on a regular Tuesday taping of Live with Kelly&Mark, the conversation turned to a Pennsylvania bill about pet custody and divorce. Mark Consuelos, 30 years into his marriage, looked at his wife on live television and said he'd stay in a loveless marriage just to keep custody of their dog, Lena. Kelly didn't miss a beat. "Is that all you're asking for?" "Because that can be arranged," she shot back. "Done." The audience laughed. The clip went everywhere. And if you only watched the 15-second version, you'd think that's the whole story, a cute bit, a viral moment, nothing more. But here's the thing about Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. Nothing with them is ever just the 15-second version. Because underneath that joke is something a lot of long-married couples will recognize instantly, the specific, comfortable cruelty you can only get away with when you actually trust someone completely. You don't joke about being replaced by the dog unless you're absolutely certain you won't be. That kind of bit isn't evidence of a marriage running on fumes. It's evidence of the opposite. It's two people who've been performing their relationship in front of cameras for 3 decades and have figured out exactly how to make "we're still here" sound funny instead of exhausting. And that's really what people are responding to when they watch Kelly&Mark. Not the banter itself, but what the banter is built on top of. Let's go back because the origin story actually explains a lot of what people see now. They met in 1995 on the set of All My Children, playing love interests. And Mark has said something interesting about that acting opposite each other for hours at a time, under pressure, day after day, gave them a strange head start most couples don't get. He put it simply, it let him see how she handled stress before he ever had to live with her handling stress. Kelly has echoed this too, admitting they didn't have much data on each other going in. They were young, they moved fast, they got married within about a year of meeting. By most conventional relationship math, that should have been a problem. Studies on dating length and divorce risk would not have loved their odds. But there's a version of intimacy that doesn't come from time, it comes from proximity under pressure. And soap opera sets are pressure. Long hours, emotional scenes, a script forcing you to be vulnerable with someone in front of a crew over and over. In a strange way, they field tested their relationship before they were even officially in one. It wasn't smooth either, and this is the part that rarely makes the highlight reel. About a year into dating, Kelly ended things. She's talked about this more openly in recent years on podcasts and in interviews, describing it less as heartbreak and more as fear. She and Mark were both around 25, falling for each other fast, and she wasn't sure she trusted a feeling that strong that quickly. They broke up. And then, almost by accident, a joint appearance on Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, a Mother's Day segment of all things, put them back in the same room. That's the moment that actually built the marriage we're talking about 30 years later. Not the fast start. The second chance. Why does that detail matter so much to people who watch them now? Because it reframes everything else. When you know they broke up once, when you know Kelly herself walked away because the intensity scared her, the version of them you see now bickering about a dog on live television stops looking like performance and starts looking like proof. Proof that the thing she was scared of in 1995 turned out to be worth staying scared of a little longer. This is probably the real reason the gray divorce headlines never actually land, no matter how many times they resurface. Every couple of years, someone points to an awkward camera moment, a stiff hug at an awards show, a tense-looking glambot clip, and decides it means something is cracking. Earlier this year it happened again, after an Oscars red carpet moment got read by some viewers as cold or distant. Right around the same time an old interview resurfaced where Kelly had mused, almost too honestly, about the concept of gray divorce, couples splitting later in life after decades together. And look, it's worth saying plainly, neither of them has confirmed anything close to trouble. What actually happened is far less dramatic and, honestly, far more interesting. A public figure being candid about a concept she finds culturally fascinating, in the same unfiltered way she talks about almost everything else on their show. That's Kelly's whole brand in a sense. She doesn't perform a polished marriage. She narrates a real one, complete with the parts that are hard to narrate. That's a genuinely rare thing to watch if you think about it. Most celebrity couples give you the highlight reel, anniversary posts, red carpet smiles, the greatest hits version of a relationship. Kelly&Mark give you mile 24. That's literally her own metaphor for it, from an episode where she was subbing in with Ryan Seacrest. Relationships, marriages are not sprints, it's a marathon. There's going to be like mile 24 when you're like, I quit. But you just got to push through. Sit with that for a second because it's not a small thing to say on national television. She's not telling you marriage is easy. She's telling you there's a mile where you want out and you stay anyway, and that staying, not the absence of wanting to leave, is the actual definition of commitment. That's not a talk show soundbite. That's something people who've actually been married a long time recognize as true. It also explains why turning their marriage into a shared job in 2023 didn't collapse it the way you might expect. Kelly once said decades earlier that she could never co-host a show with Mark, that he valued their marriage too much to risk it that way. And then, years later, they did exactly that anyway. Now they're on camera together every single weekday morning, which is either the worst idea two married people could have or the ultimate stress test of everything they'd already built. Given that they're heading toward year 3 of co-hosting without any real cracks showing, it looks a lot more like the latter. What's interesting is watching how they've adapted the on-screen dynamic to survive that. It's not soft. It's not overly sentimental. It's needling, teasing, mock-exasperated, Mark joking about the dog, Kelly pretending to file the paperwork, both of them fully aware the audience knows it's a bit. That specific tone, affectionate but never precious, might be the actual skill here. Plenty of couples can be sweet for a camera once. Fewer can be funny about each other, on purpose, 5 days a week, for years, without it curdling into something that feels forced or something that feels genuinely unkind. Kelly and Mark have found the narrow lane between those two failure states and just live there. There's a psychological reason viewers keep coming back to that lane specifically. Most of us don't get a model for what a marriage looks like at year 15 or year 25 or year 30, played out in real time with actual friction in it. Our parents' marriages happen mostly behind closed doors. Movie marriages end at the wedding before the hard part even starts. What Kelly and Mark are doing, whether they mean to or not, is showing an audience what the unglamorous middle of a long marriage actually sounds like. Not the vows. Not the anniversary post. The Tuesday morning bit about the dog. And maybe that's the real answer to why this couple keeps generating headlines even when nothing is actually happening. It's not that people expect them to fall apart. It's that people are watching, almost anthropologically, to see how two people keep choosing each other in public for 30 years without it going stale. Every concerning red carpet clip, every divorce rumor that turns out to be nothing, every viral joke about a dog. It's all just the audience checking in on a relationship they've quietly come to see as evidence that this is still possible. Perhaps that's the deeper thing here. Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos aren't compelling because they're famous. They're compelling because 30 years in they still seem to like each other, not just love each other out of habit but actually enjoy being in a room together, enough to make jokes only two people with real trust could make. And maybe that's why a bit about a dog custody bill sticks with people longer than it has any right to. It's not about the dog at all. So here's the real question worth sitting with. What is it about Kelly and Mark that keeps you watching? The humor, the honesty, or just the rare sight of a marriage that's lasted long enough to joke about the mile 24 and mean it? Drop your favorite moment of theirs in the comments. Chances are it's not the anniversary post. It's something smaller than that, and that's usually where the real story is.